Okay, I want you to be honest with me for a second. I want you to picture the last time you sat down to watch a movie on Netflix. Pick the film, you press play, the little logo does its thing. Now, looking back, were you actually watching it?
Chuckle softly. That's a dangerous question.
Or was the TV on, the volume was up, but your eyes were actually, glued to your phone. Maybe you were scrolling Instagram, answering a work message.
Or, and let's be totally real here, folding laundry.
Folding laundry, exactly. It's the scene that plays out in almost every living room every single night.
It absolutely is. It's the battle of the screens. You've got the big glowing rectangle on the wall versus the little glowing rectangle in your hand.
And most of the time, the little one wins. We all do it. I do it. But here is the hook for today's deep dive. What if I told you that the people making the movies, they know you're doing that?
And not just that they know it. They are fundamentally rewriting the rules of storytelling to accommodate.
That's it. That is the core of what we're unpacking. We're not just talking about, our bad habits or short attention spans. We're talking about an active business strategy.
A strategy that is changing how dialogue is written, how action scenes are staged, the very structure of movies is being re-engineered.
And we're basing this deep dive on a really fascinating sort of convergence of source. We got a recent and a little controversial interview with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck.
And the Joe Rogan Experience, yeah.
And to help us sort of parse that, we're looking at a breakdown by the pop culture analysts at Clownfish TV.
Right. The hosts, Neon and Geeky Sparkles, they really connected the dots between what Damon was saying and this thing they call the death.
So the mission for us today is to understand this whole second screen phenomenon. We're going to look at what's being called the laundry folder mandate. We're going to explore why the classic 3-act structure might be dying.
And we're going to try to answer a pretty terrifying question. Are we watching the death of subtext just because we can't look up from our phones long enough?
All right, let's dive in. So let's start with what you called the leak. Matt Damon is on Rogan, and in the middle of this long conversation, he drops what feels like a very specific inside baseball kind of bomb.
It really was. It was about what Netflix executives and other streamers are telling filmmakers.
So what was the instruction? What did he say?
It was startlingly specific. Damon revealed that when you're creating content for a major streamer, like Netflix, there is an explicit understanding. Sometimes it's even a direct request.
Okay.
That plot points need to be reiterated.
Reiterated. You mean like said twice to make sure we heard it?
Try 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4?
Within the dialogue, yeah.
Wow. Okay, that seems excessive. I mean, if you say something 4 times in a normal conversation, people think you're losing your mind.
Right. The keys are on the table. I put the keys on the table has the keys on it.
Yeah, exactly.
In real life, it sounds insane. But Damon explained the why, and it makes a really depressing amount of... He described the modern viewing environment.
It's not a movie.
It is not a movie theater. In a theater, you're trapped. The lights are off. You can't talk. You can't pause it. You have, like, a social contract to pay attention.
But at home...
At home, the lights are on.
Right. He said the kids are running around, the dogs are barking.
Exactly. Domestic chaos. And the crucial part is you are second screening. The data, and believe me, Netflix has more data on us than we can even imagine. It shows that a huge percentage of the audience looking at their phone while the show is...
Right.
So let's say a critical piece of information happens. The detective finds the murder weapon, the spy whispers the nuclear. If that happens just one time, visually or in a subtle line of dialogue...
The audience misses it.
They miss it because they were checking a text from their mom.
Yeah.
So they look up, they realize they don't know what's going on, and they get confused. Now, in the old days, what would you do? You'd rewind.
Sure. Hit the 10-second back button.
But the data shows that when a viewer gets confused on a streaming platform, they don't rewind.
They click off. They just go back to the menu to find...
And that is the metric that Netflix the best. So to keep you from turning it off, characters have to become broken records.
The script has to literally compensate for our lack of attention.
Yes. So the detective, he can't just find the weapon. He has to find it, hold it up, and say, I have found the weapon.
And then later he has to tell his partner.
Remember when I found the weapon? And then the partner has to say, yes, the weapon, the one you found under the bed. It has to be that...
So the Clownfish TV hosts, Neon and Geeky Sparkles, they were analyzing this, and they seemed to feel totally validated by it.
Oh, absolutely. They called it a victory lap for their channel. They've been arguing for years that streaming content is becoming what they call radio plays.
Radio plays with pictures. That's a really strong way to put it. What do they mean by that exactly?
They mean the content is being designed to be audio friendly. The visual component is, well, it's becoming secondary. The ideal show, according to this new metric, is one where you can follow the entire story.
The plot, the stakes.
The character motivations, everything, without ever actually looking at the screen. You can listen to it while you cook or clean or scroll TikTok, and you will not miss a...
That just fundamentally changes the job of a screenwriter, doesn't it? I mean, the golden rule of cinema, the first thing they teach you is show, don't tell.
It is the cardinal rule. If a character is angry, you don't have them say, I am angry. You show them clenching their jaw. You show them breaking a pencil, the vein throbbing in their neck.
But this laundry folder mandate, it just flips that on its head. It becomes tell, then tell again, then tell one more time just in case.
Right.
The Clownfish hosts had a pretty funny take on what this ends up looking like in practice. They were joking about characters basically narrating their own act.
Yeah, they called it NPC dialogue, like from a video game. Stuff like, I am now walking across the room to pick up this piece of evidence.
It sounds absurd when you say it out loud like that.
It does, but listen closely to some of the recent big streaming hits. You will hear characters vocalizing things that are clearly plainly visible right there on...
Like, look at that explosion.
Yes, the building is on fire. We must run from the fire. In a visual medium, you would just show them running. You'd show the terror in their eyes. But if you assume the audience is looking at Instagram...
You need the audio cue.
You need the scream, the shout, the literal description to pull their eyes back to the TV, even for a second.
It's like we're moving away from cinema and towards, high-budget podcasts with moving wallpapers.
That's a great way to put it. And the real casualty here is nuance. You can't have a mystery that relies on a visual clue in the background.
Right, like a lingering shadow or a specific book on a shelf or a quick glance between two lovers.
Forget it, because 50% of your audience simply will not see it, so everything has to become text. Subtext dies because subtext requires focus.
Okay, so the dialogue is being, let's say, clarified.
Yeah.
But Damon also touched on something structural. This whole attention economy thing isn't just changing what characters say.
Yeah.
It's changing the very bone of the movie itself, specifically action movie.
This was the more technical part of his discussion, and for anyone interested in how movies are actually built, fascinating. He contrasted the old way of making a Hollywood blockbuster with the streamer way.
And the old way is the classic 3-act structure we all learned about.
Right. Standard Hollywood storytelling. It's been around, Aristotle. Act 1 is the setup. You meet the hero, you learn the problem.
Act 2, things get harder.
Exactly. The rising action, the confrontation, the bad guys get closer, and then Act 3 is the resolution, the big climax. In a traditional action movie, this dictates your budget.
You save your money for the end.
You save it for the end. You want the biggest explosion, the highest stakes, the most expensive CGI set piece to be the climax. You build up.
You leave the audience with a bang. That's how you send them out of the theater buzzing and telling their friends to go see it.
But that whole model assumes the audience is locked in a room and that they will stick around for 90 minutes to get to the bang.
And in the streaming era, that is a dangerous assumption.
A very dangerous assumption. Damon explained that the new mandate is to front-load the budget.
They want the big explosion in the first 5 minutes.
They need a massive hook immediately. If you don't grab the viewer in the opening sequence, what they call the cold open, the analytics show they just drop off.
They get bored.
They get bored. They pick up the phone, and they never put it back down. The movie is effectively over for them.
It feels like fear-based storytelling.
Yeah.
It's like the movie is begging, please don't leave. Look, we blew up a helicopter. Stay with us, please.
It's the TikTok effect applied to feature film. On TikTok, a creator has, 3 seconds, maybe less?
To hook you before you swipe.
Yeah. Netflix is operating on a slightly longer timeline, but the logic is identical. You cannot ask for patience. You cannot ask the audience to trust that the slow burn is sting. You have to prove it's exciting now.
So what does that do to the ending of the movie? If you spend all your money on the opening hook, doesn't the climax kind of suffer?
Often, yes. Or the storytelling itself suffers because you are prioritizing spectacle over, a narrative build. You aren't earning the explosion emotionally.
You're just buying our attention.
You're buying attention. It totally disrupts the pacing. Instead of a nice rising curve of tension, you get a flat line of constant stimulation or a graph that just peaks way too early and then fizzles out.
It reminds me of how pop songs change for streaming. The intros got shorter and shorter. The chorus has to hit within 15 seconds.
Because Spotify counts a play after 30 seconds. The exact same mechanism. The medium dictates the structure of the art.
So if the medium is easily distractible home viewing,
the structure must be constant, loud, engaged. You can't have a quiet 10-minute conversation scene in the first act anymore. That's just not going to fly.
I guess that's precisely when the viewer remembers they need to order groceries on an app.
Exact.
This all leads us to a bit of a touchy subject. The Clownfish TV analysis video was titled, Hollywood Thinks You're Dumb, which is a provocative title. But is that what's really happening?
It is. Is the audience getting simpler or are we just busier?
Right. Are we dumb or are we just distracted?
It's the central tension of the whole analysis. And to his credit, Ben Affleck actually pushed back on that dumb narrative in the interview.
I appreciated that because it's so easy to just fall into that kids these days have no brains argument. But what was his point?
Affleck used his own kids as an example. He pointed out that adolescents today consume incredibly complex content just on their phones. They follow these intricate dramas, super fast-paced editing, complicated lore on social media, and they do it all while multitasking. He argued that they're not stupid at all. Their processing is actually incredibly high.
Higher than any previous generation.
Right. They can absorb information way faster than we ever could.
So it's not that they can't follow a traditional 3-act structure. It's that they won't.
Or maybe that the content being offered isn't compelling enough to command that level of singular. Which brings us to this slop theory that clowns about.
Slop. I love that term. It sounds so industrial, like you're feeding livestock or something.
That's entirely the implication. Content slop refers to this low-quality, repetitive media that's just designed to fill a void. The argument is that studios are producing this generic content because they assume people are just doom-scrolling anyway.
But that creates a vicious cycle. Okay, let's trace that cycle. So people don't pay attention because the show is kind of generic and bad.
Right. So the studios, they look at their data. They see completion rates dropping. They see engagement flag. Do they say, oh, we need to write better or more challenging scripts?
No.
No. They say, oh, people are confused. We need to make the plot simpler. We need to repeat the dialogue 3 times.
Which makes the show even more generic and repetitive.
Which, in turn, makes people pay even less.
And it just spirals down.
Exactly. It's a race to the bottom of engagement. If you treat your audience like they are barely conscious, you will produce content that only appeals to the barely conscious.
And the Clownfish host brought up Stranger Things in this context, which was both hilarious and a little bit terrifying.
It was, because Stranger Things is usually held up as, the gold standard of Netflix quality, the big prestige show.
But they were speculating about the upcoming season 5.
Yeah, there are rumors, and let's be super clear, these are just rumors, that the Duffer Brothers are under pressure to simplify the final to make sure it has mass appeal.
To make sure the laundry folders don't get lost.
Precisely. And the Clownfish hosts just mocked this hypothetical scenario where the characters have to explain everything, literally.
Where are the Demogorgon?
Oh.
Vecna is off guard in his spider castle.
Yes, that castle. The one that, looks like a spider. We must go there now because he is unguarded.
It sounds like a video game tutorial. Press A to jump, but applied to a high-stakes drama.
And it creates a situation where you can't have any mystery. You can't have the audience asking, wait, where's the villain?
Yeah.
Because the studio assumes if they ask that question, they'll turn it off.
You have to have a character basically look at the camera and say, the villain is at location X, and our plan is to go there to do Y.
It just removes the participatory element of watching a show. When you watch a mystery, half the fun is your own brain trying to solve it before the character does.
Right.
If the character just solves it and then explains it to you 3 times, my brain just turns off. I have no job.
And that is the absolute definition of passive consumption versus active viewing. And that distinction, passive versus active, really anchors this next part of the discussion. Matt Damon made this really beautiful, almost religious comparison about the experience of going to a movie theater.
If he compared the theater to a church.
Which, depending on how much you love popcorn, it feels pretty appropriate.
It really does. I mean, think about the parallels, even if you're not religious.
The analogy holds up structurally. A church or a theater, it's a sanctuary. It's a dedicated space.
You have to travel there. You enter. You turn off your connection to the outside world. You put your phone on silent.
The lights go down. It demands your reverence, or at the very least, your silence.
And crucially, it happens at a specific time. It doesn't wait. You can't pause the movie theater because you want to get a snack or answer a text. You are completely beholden to the timeline of the film.
And that constraint is what creates the focus. And because everyone in that room is focusing together, you get a shared emotional experience.
You laugh together. You gasp together. There's a social contagion to the emotion in the room. Damon was really mourning the loss of that communal focus.
And the Clownfish host, they took this a step further and talked about the death of what they call water cooler TV.
The monoculture.
Yeah.
Think about shows like Friends or Cheers or Seinfeld.
Or even early Game of Thrones.
Absolutely. Everyone watched the same episode at the same time on Sunday night. So the next day at work or at school, you had a shared language. Did you see what Ross did? Can you believe they killed off Ned Stark?
Now, viewing is just totally fragmented. Everyone is watching on their own timeline, binging at different speeds.
And because we're all half watching, even if we happen to see the same show, we aren't absorbing it in the same way. We don't have that deep shared connection.
They pointed out something that really blew my mind, which is the idea that people now consume the Cliff Notes version of movies through TikTok.
The memification of this is it. You ask a younger viewer, hey, have you seen American Psycho? And they'll say yes.
But what they mean is
they've seen the Sigma male memes of Christian Bale walking down the hallway. They've seen the 15-second clip set to music.
They haven't actually sat through the 2-hour narrative. They've just consumed the aesthetic without any of the context.
It's like cultural strip mining. We're just taking the shiny bits, the funny line, the cool walk, the big explosion, and we're ignoring the narrative structure that gave those moments their meaning in the first place.
But, and this is where the clownfish analysis got really insightful, they pointed out one specific type of content that seems to be immune to this.
The subtitle solution.
Exactly.
Why are K-dramas like Squid Game and anime like Demon Slayer just exploding in popularity, even among these so-called distracted audiences?
Because you can't multitask.
You have to read. If you look down at your phone to check a text while you're watching Squid Game, you will have absolutely no idea what is happening.
You miss the dialogue.
You miss the entire plot. The language barrier forces you to lock in.
It's the ultimate focus hack. The subtitles demand your eye. And because your eyes are on the screen to read the text, you inadvertently end up catching the visual storytelling too.
Right. You see the acting, you see the cinematography, you're actually watching the film.
It's a fascinating paradox. The barrier to entry, reading subtitles, which Americans are famously allergic to.
Yeah.
It actually creates a deeper, more immersive experience.
More immersive than the easy English language content that's designed to just be listened to like a podcast.
Well, Clownfish hosts even admitted that for the stuff they really want to enjoy, they actually prefer foreign language content for this exact reason.
It forces them to put the phone away. It saves them from themselves.
It really just highlights the difference between watching and consuming.
Yeah. English language streaming is becoming consumptive. It's passive, background noise, it's low engagement. Subtitled content remains watching. It's active, it's focused, it's intentional.
I want to zoom out a bit. If Hollywood keeps going down this audio-friendly, reiterate the plot path, what happens to media literacy? I mean, are we going to lose the ability to understand a story that isn't spoon-fed to us?
That is the long-term danger here. It's the decline of inference, of reading between the lines. The Clownfish host went on a bit of a rant about this.
I remember.
Describing people who leave comments on their videos based solely on the thumbnail, or asking questions that were literally answered in the first minute of the video.
Why did he? Because the movie showed him finding the letter 5 minutes ago. Oh, sorry, I was talking.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you train an audience that they don't need to pay attention, they will stop paying. And then when a filmmaker tries to make something smart,
Something that requires you to connect the dots yourself,
the audience rejects it. They call it confusing or slow, or they say it's full of plot holes.
when really they're just mistaking unexplained for plot hole because they missed the explanation.
Precise. The Clownfish team had this really funny hypothetical about the Warner Bros. And Netflix merger. They were imagining what would happen. Netflix applied the laundry folder logic.
The Super Friends scenario.
Right. We are the super friends because we're friends and we have...
It sounds like a joke. But think about the first Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix. That was a cerebral, psychological character study. It required you to sit with uncomfortable silence.
to interpret what was real and what was a delusion.
Exactly. Under the strict interpretation of this Netflix mandate, that movie is a nightmare for a studio. It's ambiguous. It's quiet.
It would get made, but with a voiceover constantly, I am now having a delusion because I've stopped.
That hurts my soul just to hear. But it prevents the bounce, right? It keeps the confused viewer from clicking away.
They also brought up the Legend of Zelda movie that's in the works. And, Link is a famously silent protagonist.
A huge risk in the current.
Matt. The fear is that the studio will force a script where they have to explain the dynamic every 5 minutes. I am Link. That is Zelda. I'm the hero. She is the princess I must rescue.
Because if you're just listening from the kitchen and you hear a female name, you might assume the guy on screen with the green hat is named Zelda.
I am not Zelda. I know it is confusing, but my name is... I can literally hear the studio notes in my head right now.
It's just treating the audience like they have zero cultural context and zero attention span. And while that might minimize confusion, it maximizes boredom for anyone who's actually trying to engage with the story.
So we have this tension. On one side, you've got the Church of Cinema theaters, subtitles, focused attention. And on the other side,
We have the living room laundry folders, distracted, phone in hand, needing the plot explained 3 times over.
it really feels like we are seeing a bifurcation of the audience, a split into 2 distinct classes.
The watchers and the casuals.
That's a good way to put it. The watchers will seek out complex, maybe foreign language content. They'll be the ones on Reddit discussing themes and cinematography.
They will pay for the privilege of focus.
And the casuals.
They will consume the slop. They'll watch the shows where the dialogue is literal, the explosions happen in minute 1, and the plot is repeated every 10 minutes.
And they will probably be on their phones the entire time and not even realize what they're missing.
It's almost like the industry is giving up on the idea of a mass audience being smart. They're just catering to the lowest common denominator of attention.
But here's the critical question, and it's something I think you, the listener, should really reflect. Is the industry reacting to our behavior, or are they training us to?
That is the chicken and the egg, isn't it?
It is. If Netflix started releasing nothing but slow burn, complex, visually driven masterpieces that demanded your full attention, would we put our phones down?
Or would we just cancel our subscription?
I'd like to think we'd rise to the occasion. But then I look at my own screen time stats from last and I wonder.
Yeah.
Damon and Affleck are pointing out a reality. The battle for our attention is the defining war of our time. And right now, the phone is winning. The TV is just trying to negotiate a surrender that keeps it running in the background.
Please, just leave me on while you scroll. That's the new motto of prestige television.
It really seems so.
Okay, this has been a bit of a reality check. We've covered the laundry folder mandate, the death of the 3-act structure, the slop theory.
And the surprising savior that is subtitles.
We have, and it paints a pretty complicated picture of where entertainment is headed.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now?
I think it comes down to a choice. The next time you sit down to watch something, just ask yourself, am I watching this or am I just having it on?
Are you a watcher or are you a consumer?
Because if you don't vote with your attention, if you don't put the phone in the other room and actually engage with the story, the algorithm is going to assume you're folding laundry, and it is going to start treating you like.
And before you know it, every movie will start with an explosion and end with a character turning to the camera and saying, "The movie is over now. I am walking away."
A terrifying thought.
Here's a final thought to leave you with, something that wasn't explicitly in the source material, but feels like the next logical step. If the second screen, your phone, is where the real attention, how long until the movie on the TV is just the advertisement for the content on your phone? How long until the big screen is just the ambient lighting for your TikTok?
We might already be there.
On that cheery note, thank you for listening to this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.
Put down the phone, watch a movie. See you next time.